Hello and welcome to the Second Tier Podcast. I'm Ryan Dilks and I'm joined by the European Super League to my championship. It's Justin Peach.
Good day to you, Ryan.
Leeds are keeping up the pressure. Ipswich Town remain top two. Leicester City still winning the league, and Merry Christmas, everyone. That's basically the podcast. We don't have to do anything else, Justin. That's a good summary of everything there, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a really comprehensive way of analysing the weekend. There's also a really awkward background noise you were doing with your hands there.
I was trying to keep a beat going at the same time.
Yeah, as long as listeners know that was both of your hands making that noise and not anything else, because that was incredibly distracting and really unsettling from me, and I'm here with you now, whereas listeners are going to be in their cars with families, driving to families listening to this, and all they're going to hear is, come on now.
It's a little Christmas treat for everyone. Welcome to the number one championship podcast, the Second Tier. Thank you for joining us wherever you are. Yes, it's Christmas Eve, ladies and gentlemen. So we will be honest, this is going to be a bit of a whistle-stop tour of all the championship games from Christmas Eve and Christmas Eve. Because, you know, let's be honest, if you're listening to this, then you're either bored of your parents arguing with your uncles about politics or whatever you're on Christmas Day, or you're working on Christmas Eve, Boxing Day, or Christmas Day itself. So there's not going to be much chance for you to listen to this. So if you are, then you are a dedicated second tier listener. We appreciate you. But, you know, we'll try and keep this brief so you've got it bite-sized and ready for you, whatever you're doing over the Christmas period. But you know what? Let's kick things off with a firecracker of a game, Justin. I should have just said cracker, because then it's in keeping with the season, isn't it? Leeds United 4, Ipswich Town 0. What a game this was from a Leeds United perspective, Justin, because Leeds were absolutely breathtaking.
I'll be honest with you, I was expecting a draw from this, but Leeds were brilliant. They really were, and I think it's an example of what Leeds can do when they're fully on it. I know you've mentioned previously that they're in a slump, and I disagreed with you on that, because I don't think performances have been.
Whoa! It was just a bad week. Is what.
Yeah. But there were suggestions of a slump, which I think is enough for me to disagree with. I don't think it was a slump. I think it was just a case of not converting the chances they were taking, and they converted the chances they were creating in this game. I will admit, I don't think they created a whole lot in open play. They were very effective from set pieces, and again, really tidy on their counter attack. I thought they were more effective from set pieces than they were in open play.
They scored 4 goals and then hit the bar twice. What are you talking about?
I'm not discrediting it. I just thought they were. What I'm saying is they had a lot of conviction in the final third compared to what they have done in previous games. And like I was saying, I think it's an example of what they can do when they're on it. They punished Ipswich's lax defending several times. It was a really, really good forward-thinking performance from Leeds.
I think this was possibly their best performance of the season. They were helped by Ipswich being really poor, which we will get onto, but don't let that take anything away from Leeds. They were absolutely rampant. Crescencio Somerville was clearly on a high after being picked in our team of the season so far. Clearly gave him the confidence to go out and put a performance like that. Joe Rodon, Pascal Struijk were dominant at the back. I mean, young Archie Gray had a great game as well. We have got to remember he's a 17-year-old playing out of position in one of Leeds' biggest games of the season, and he was superb here. But I just thought they were ruthless, and this result is massive in a lot of ways, isn't it?
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. Not just for the points. I know they closed the gap from 10 to 7 between the top two and the playoffs. But psychologically, I think it's more important that Leeds not only win. I mean, if they won 1-0, sure, it's a big win. But they demolished Ipswich here, and they really were scintillating. I think the psychological factor is going to play a massive part for both sides. I think Leeds are going to be buoyed, but they're going to need to match the levels from this game and their next game over the Christmas period. And obviously Ipswich are going to be smarting, and they're going to need to bounce back. It's that psychological edge that it gives Leeds in the hunt for the top two, because this was a damaging result for Ipswich.
I think you're spot on, Justin. I think it was a cliche 6-pointer in many different ways, because not only is it a 6-pointer in terms of the actual points, but it's also a 6-pointer in the way that this will give Leeds such confidence and strike a big blow on Ipswich's confidence, because they couldn't string together passes, and that's a big part of Ipswich's game. And will that be a problem going forward? We'll have to wait and see. But it does cut Ipswich's lead to 7 points. However, for me, Justin, this game won't win Leeds automatic promotion. It will be what happens over the remaining 23 games. And Leeds can't afford too many weeks like they had last week. So that's why we keep saying consistency has to be better. And this win will be absolutely pointless if Leeds go to Preston on Boxing Day and draw, won't it? Because Ipswich are playing Leicester next. So that's potentially another big opportunity for Leeds to cut that lead that Ipswich have even more. But, Leeds have to live up to their side of the bargain in that respect, don't they?
Yeah, and also they have to deliver on their expectation. Leeds have set a stall here. Like I said, they demolished Ipswich. So they need to go to Preston and do exactly the same thing. Maybe not demolish them, but at least create the chances they created and be as ruthless as they have been in this game, because that's what's held them back in the previous 2 games especially, is they haven't been ruthless when the chances have been literally at their feet. They don't take them often enough, and I think it's about developing consistency, developing good habits going into the second half of the season. That's what Leeds need to do. They need to follow up each result, match the performances, week on week, and if they don't do that, yes, they are going to fall behind Ipswich. Ipswich have done that in the first half of the season. They are dropping off a little bit, performance-wise anyway. They are dropping off a little bit, and Leeds are catching up. And it just goes to show that if you take your foot off the gas, you don't put it down, you don't get anywhere. And it's essentially what Leeds have done in recent weeks. They haven't got anywhere. They've got the chance to do it. They can do it.
Yeah, well, you take the context out of the situation. Leeds have they've done the double over Ipswich, haven't they? They've taken 6 points off Ipswich, yet they're still 7 points behind. So that's what I mean when I say these head-to-head games don't really mean much in the grand scheme of things. It's about Leeds being as consistent as Ipswich have been over these first 23 games, and that's what makes you a promotion team, isn't it? But as good as Leeds were, Justin, Ipswich were poor, weren't they? Their passes weren't connecting, particularly when they were trying to play it out from the back. Each time they lost the ball, Leeds had a dangerous attack. They were restricted to chances from distance. They got completely outplayed in this one. Hasn't happened very often, but it certainly did here.
Yeah, and you have to criticise a team when they perform poorly, and we haven't been able to do that for Ipswich very often this season because they haven't been performing poorly on too many occasions. That's why they're in the top 2. But I think what this game does show is when you nullify them going forwards, you have a good chance of getting 3 points against them because they give you chances. Ipswich give you chances. You're not always going to come up against the Leeds where they've got the Premier League quality to put those chances away. And as we saw in this game, you gifted Leeds a fair few goals, and if you give them a head start, you're going to struggle, and they did. If you look at the Leif Davison goal, for example, Ipswich had 5 players in the box, but they still didn't defend the cross. It's defending those moments that really lets Ipswich down. It's going to be, I said it last week, and I don't want to keep banging the same drum, but I will do because things haven't changed. But if you keep giving opposition chances, more often than not, they will take them, and Leeds did here. And for me, the back line for Ipswich, it needs a leader. It needs a leader to come in January to fix it, because it's those moments that are letting Ipswich down, and it will let them down as the season goes on for the hunt for the top 2.
I can understand what you're saying, Justin. However, we have got to remember that not every team that Ipswich come up against will have the clinical edge that Leeds United do.
Yeah,
and that's why, the point that you were making just a second ago as well, that if you manage to keep Ipswich out, then they can be got at. The problem is teams haven't been able to keep Ipswich out because they've scored, usually 2 or more goals in pretty much every game this season. This was just them being blunt against a very, very good team. So with that being said, I hear what you're saying about the defensive concerns, but I want to cast your mind back to last weekend when you were saying that they won't get top 2 because of what was your exact wording again?
Top 2 will be top 2 will be a big ask if they keep giving opposition chances, and like in this game. So yeah, I do because you need a super tight defence to finish in the top 2. The examples I gave last week. Yes, you absolutely do. The examples I gave
They're in the
last
top
week,
two.
they're currently in the top two. Doesn't mean they're going to be in the top two in 6 months' time. But again, you take a
Outscore
look at this
everyone.
game. You can't continue to outscore teams. It's the balance of averages.
Halfway
If you
through the
keep giving
season,
opposition
Justin, they're
chances.
7 points clear.
Yeah, again, we're only halfway through the season, and we're seeing Ipswich give chances away. We saw it against Norwich last week, and we saw it against Leeds this week. Those chances were taken up by their opposition. And again, you're looking at the game here against Leeds. Is what I'm saying about needing a leader. They need someone to come in and take control of those moments, because those moments are going to be punished, and that's what's going to hold Ipswich back. They are a good side. They're a very, very gifted side going forwards, but like I said, you shut them out going forwards, they're going to give you a chance. And unfortunately, you need experience to not allow that to happen. I don't think Ipswich have that.
So right now, who do you think is going to finish second? Right now.
Right now, it's easy to say Ipswich, and it's a simple one. But for me, Leeds have got the quality to catch Ipswich, and Southampton are on an incredible unbeaten run as well. So if Ipswich continue this poor defensive form, then Leeds and Southampton will catch them up sooner rather than later.
Not sure. I'm not sure I agree. Leeds Davis had an absolute nightmare in this game, didn't he, against his old club? A clumsy own goal, then gives away a stonewall penalty. I felt bad for him when he got subbed off as well and did a lap around the pitch. He was getting clapped by Leeds fans, but I'm not sure if that was sarcastic on their behalf. Ipswich v Leicester on Boxing Day, of course. First time they've met this season. Not sure how that's happened when they've already played Leeds twice, but, that's the way it's fallen. And Leeds will be praying the Foxes do them a big favour on the day after Christmas. Speaking of them, Leicester 3, Rotherham 0, as comprehensive a win as it gets for Leicester. Rotherham held on. They were sat back for most of this, but the pressure was just too much, and it's now 3 losses from 3 for Liam Richardson. 4 goals in 4 now for Patson Daka. Incredible how he's just come out of nowhere and started scoring for fun, isn't it? But we're now halfway through the season. No team has won more points at this stage than Leicester City. The last 3 teams who were top of the Championship at Christmas have gone on to win the league. Is that going to be different this year? No. No, it's not. A goal from Taylor Harwood-Bellis saw Southampton win 1-0 away at QPR. Saints strengthening their grip on that almost inevitable 4th place, 15 games unbeaten for them. A very impressive run to their credit. They are on the same points as Leeds, so 7 points off Ipswich. They have been dealt a blow, though, with Ross Stewart being out for the rest of the season. He signed for £8 million in the summer, was recovering from an Achilles injury when he was brought in. Now he suffered a season-ending hamstring injury, and he just cannot get a break, can he, Justin?
So disappointed for him for a number of reasons. I mean, jokingly, having him as a Golden Boot contender, that's clearly going to be one of them. But to be robbed of 2 full seasons of the Loch Ness Drogba is bitterly disappointing, and you can only imagine that the amount of times Southampton get the ball on that byline and cut it back, how many goals Ross Stewart would score in this team, especially in this division. It's so disappointing not to be able to see him flourish in the Southampton team, because I really do think he would. And I think games like this where Southampton mainly controlled the game against QPR, created a good number of chances, that's probably where they need someone like Ross Stewart, because pound for pound, I don't think there's a better number 9 in the division than Ross Stewart when fully fit. Like traditional number 9, he's really top talent. He's going to be a huge blow.
Yeah. Well, the most bizarre thing about this is, obviously, he missed pretty much 3/4 of last season as well. When he got promoted with Sunderland, I think I'm right in saying he played every single game in League One, including in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And now he's basically played a quarter of 2 seasons, a quarter of 1 season in 2 seasons, if that makes sense. It's just ridiculous how unlucky he's been. But I mean, for Southampton, they've forked out £8 million on this guy, and they're not going to see anything for it until next season now. So, they've taken a gamble. It's not paid off. Will it cost them in the long term? We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, it's massive, massive bad luck for Ross Stewart and massive bad luck for Southampton. Justin, let's take a quick break. After that, we'll talk about Mick Beale's first game in charge of Sunderland. I'm sure that went well. Welcome back to the Second Tier podcast. So let's go to Mick Beale's first game in charge of Sunderland. They were beaten 3-0 at home by Coventry. This scoreline didn't really reflect the game. Sunderland were the better team for most of it and probably deserved something. Definitely not a 3-0 loss. However, the result won't do anything to appease the majority of Sunderland fans, or the seeming majority of Sunderland fans, who are very annoyed about the appointment of Mick Beale. There was a banner aimed at the board which said, "Home end handed over, shame on you." And there were chants from both sets of supporters of, "There's only one Tony Mowbray." So, yeah, it started by the commentary fans, of course, Tony Mowbray, ex-commentary manager, and then the Sunderland fans joined in. Justin, question for you. When was the last time we saw a reaction to an appointment as negative as this? Can you think of one?
Not in the Championship. The one I can think of is Rafa Benitez to Chelsea, or even Everton. Actually, just where fans are so, there's so much volatility towards an appointment. It's quite extreme. But even, I guess it's a bit strange in Mick Beale's case because he doesn't have any affiliation with any rival sides, where Rafa Benitez did for Chelsea and Everton. But yeah, it's a strange one. But I mean, look, from a management perspective, it's not an inspiring choice. Mixed spell with Rangers, poor departure from QPR. Football fans aren't stupid. They see straight through it. The only way you're going to get them on side is if you win games. And unfortunately, it doesn't matter if you dominate a game like Sunderland did here. You don't win. You're not going to appease the fans.
No, well, you're quite right. I think if we are looking at it from a Championship perspective, an obvious answer is Zola to Birmingham. However, there were circumstances around that. We have to remember, did Zola, did he get Watford promoted in the end? Or he got to playoffs, didn't he? At least with them. So, playoff final even. So he was still coming into Birmingham with a pretty decent record, even though it went completely tits up in the end. Whereas Mick Beale, I said this when he got appointed, and it still stands true, Justin. And I mean this 100% genuinely. I have no idea what the Sunderland board have seen in this appointment. And you're absolutely right. The Sunderland fans are seeing exactly the same. It's not like, maybe 20, 30 years ago where football supporters don't know anything about the managers who are coming in. Everyone knows everything about pretty much every manager who's available now, and they know that his record prior to Sunderland wasn't very good. Is he an upgrade on Tony Mowbray?
No.
I struggle to see it personally, so that's why this whole appointment is completely bamboozling. And look, he's not going to win around the fans, is he, until he starts getting some points on the board, and I don't see that happening anytime soon.
No, that's it. And it's probably unfair to say you don't see it happening anytime soon, because Sunderland, they're a very talented squad, but it's clearly some inefficiencies in attack that lets them down, because we saw it last season, Ross Stewart getting injured and Joe Gelhardt in the second half he's not quite living up to the expectation they needed to. They would have finished a lot more comfortably in the playoffs had they had a goal scorer. That wasn't addressed this season.
The reason I say that I struggle to see it turning anytime soon, Justin, is because of the fixtures they've got coming up. They've got Hull away, which is a tricky game on Boxing Day. Rotherham, fair enough. Preston aren't in great form. Then they've got that big FA Cup game against Newcastle, which is a gigantic game in that part of the world. Then Ipswich away as well. Then Hull again, bizarrely. So they've got some tricky games coming up, and I struggle to see where Mick Beale's going to win around the fans in that time, unless he manages to pull off a huge upset against Newcastle.
I think the point that's worth making as well is managerial appointments can really buoy and really get a crowd going, really get a support base going. So let's say if they appointed someone like, I don't know, Gary Rowett, that wouldn't have appeased the fans. It would have been a flat reaction, but you sort of understand it because he has got some success at this level, whereas Mick Beale doesn't. But then you go for someone who's young and ambitious, like a Will Still. That's going to get the crowd going. It's going to get the crowd behind the club, the team, and you're going to see a better reaction. You're probably going to see momentum where you might not perform well, but you get a result. I think that's what Sunderland needed, not appointing someone who, for use of a better term, is a bit of a snake.
Fair enough. Coventry have now won 15 points from an available 24. Had some tough games in that time as well. A repeat of last year. Looking good. Jude Bellingham was at the Stadium of Light for this game, having a little break to watch his little brother for Christmas. Not sure he would have been too impressed, though, with what he saw here. Another manager who had his first game in charge on this weekend was Stephen Schumacher at Stoke. His first game ended goalless against Millwall. Millwall had 2 shots here in this game, so Stephen Schumacher probably feeling a bit hard done to, not to get something more than just a draw from his first game in charge. at the Potteries. Let's go to his old team, Plymouth, who drew 3-3 with Birmingham. Birmingham were 2-0 up, then Plymouth pulled one back. Q disappointed Wayne Rooney meme. Christian Bielik gets sent off. Q disappointed Wayne Rooney meme again. Birmingham scored to make it 3-1 and end up drawing 3-3. Q very disappointed Wayne Rooney meme. He's now on 9 points from an available 36 at Birmingham. Oh dear. Meanwhile, Leighton Baines is the current favourite with the bookies for the Plymouth job.
Ooh.
Bit random, isn't it?
I love that. I absolutely love that. I don't know why. No reason why, other than Leighton Baines was a very good player, very good haircuts, and he's Scouse as well. So there's clearly a theme going there for Plymouth.
Plymouth just want to hire Scousers. That's their method of thinking. It's just very Football Manager-esque, that appointment, isn't it? A 94th minute winner from Jamie Patterson saw Swansea beat Preston at 2-1. Quite a strange game, this. Both sides have been in pretty rotten form. The Swansea fans were chanting against the club's owners before they scored the late winner. So it's a club in a bit of state of flux at the moment after this. It became their second win in 9 games. Preston fans also very unhappy. 3 wins from 16 after this result. Ryan Lowe was speaking to the media this week, and in answer to a fan's criticism, he responded, "What has that fan done in football?" Which is a great way to endear yourself even more to supporters, isn't it? You can tell from the way he's acting in the media, though, Justin, that he's feeling the pressure right now, isn't he?
Yeah, it's a weird one. I thought it was a great question, actually, from the media guy. I do encourage people to watch that, because it's one of those moments where it's just like a little bit awkward as a viewer, even just scrolling through Twitter. It's like, you shouldn't be saying that, Ryan, because it's going to piss a lot of people off, and it did, because it was a bit of a sarcastic tone, a bit passive aggressive as well. However you take it, it reminds me actually of the Isco Munoz tenure, because he got really needly with the media towards the end of his reign at Sheffield Wednesday. It was very snappy, answers were short, had a weird bitter undertone to them, and that's seemingly the way Ryan Lowe is venturing. And so the next few games is a huge period for him, because he needs results. He probably needs results more than Preston do, because once you lose the fans, that's it. Your time is numbered.
Well, Ryan Lowe comes across as quite a cynical kind of man, kind of manager anyway, for lack of a better term. So when he's feeling the pressure like this, then I think he's always going to have a bit of a bite back at questions like that, isn't he? But he's undoubtedly under pressure. It's worth saying Preston's still in the top half, so it's still how sorry then. Well, they're not in the top half actually. They've now dropped to 13th. I thought they were still in the top half, but obviously just 1 point outside of it now. But yeah, I don't know how they're still so high in the table, because they've been pretty poor now for a long time. Middlesbrough made it back-to-back wins for the first time in 2 months by beating West Brom 1-0. A big result for Michael Carrick's side. They had been slipping down the table after a run of 2 wins from 8. They've got Rotherham and Huddersfield next, so a great chance for them to get right amongst it. Speaking of Huddersfield, they lost 2-0 away at Norwich. Not too much harm done in regard to their survival chances, because the bottom 4 all lost. So it's essentially as it is for the Terriers. It is just 1 win in 11, though. Norwich doing all right, aren't they? Draw away at Ipswich last weekend, win this weekend. 5 wins from 8, and you were ringing the bell for Norwich sticking with David Wagner not too long ago, Justin. Are you claiming victory on that one?
Yeah, you all laughed at me. Well, who's laughing now? Eh? The Wagner promotion chase. The Wagner promotion chase is taking flight like a beautiful canary migrating for the warm weather. I don't know whether they know, but I'm going to take it as a win. I don't think Norwich will get promoted, but look, Wagner's turned results around. That's as big a result as you can ask for this season for Norwich, because they were hopeless.
Question: do you still think? Well, I don't think you thought it anyway. But do you think David Wagner's the long-term answer at Norwich?
No, I don't think.
So when do they change it?
When they get promoted at the end of this season.
Okay, so you think give him to the end of the season?
Yeah. Give him to the end of the season. 17 points from 30 is a really good return. Performances haven't been great, and I don't think that's particularly sustainable. But they've got players that have come back. So now is a point where you can really judge David Wagner. Bearing in mind he's still got a patchy defence as well. So you have got to give him credit. I don't rate him. I don't think he's a long-term answer, and I do think Norwich should move away from him at some point, but not while they're in good form.
They were in good form not long ago, and that's when you were defending him. Cardiff came from a goal down to beat Sheffield Wednesday 2-1. Cardiff had lost 10 of their 11 games where they had fallen behind prior to this, so they'll be very happy to have improved in that respect. Although by most accounts it seems like Sheffield Wednesday will be wondering how they didn't get something from this. They're still 6 points from safety. Bristol City also came from behind to win. They were 2-1 down and beat Hull 3-2. Back-to-back wins for Liam Manning at Bristol City. Previously he had won just 1 in 6, so it looks like he's finally getting the wheels turning at Ashton Gate. Meanwhile, Hull have signed 78-year-old Billy Sharp on a deal until the end of the season. What do you think of that, Justin?
I'm a bit sceptical of it. I don't think Billy Sharp's probably of a Championship standard. Might not even be of a League One standard. I think on paper, certainly an interesting one. But whilst Billy Sharp is a great goal scorer, he's no Kevin Phillips. Kevin Phillips refined his game, played into his 40s. He dropped deeper. Sharp's only exceptional when he's in the box. He's pretty useless outside of it, from my money anyway. Who'll probably need a little bit more than that. That being said, he's got experience. He will score a couple of goals between now and the end of the season, and he's a big character as well. So that might be as beneficial for Hull as signing another forward, for example.
Well, I will say that you have got to remember, producer Finn is a Sheffield United fan, so he will be hunting you down with a machete after this recording. However, do you not think he has something to offer as an impact sub?
Not really, no. I think they're better off. I think Liam Delap's a really good forward. Aaron Connolly's he's come back into form again. He scored a lovely goal here against Bristol City, and he went for a bit of a dry spell. Whether Billy Sharp's another cog that will help this forward line score more goals, I don't think he will, but I think he will be a useful impact player and a useful character in and around the squad, which can be as valuable. It can be as valuable. I just don't think he's got the legs anymore for the Championship.
Good in the dressing room, Justin. That's what he's got. I wonder if the Hull fans are going to adopt the Baby Shark song that the LA Galaxy fans were singing while he was over in the MLS. I hope.
Listen, if they sing "You're Getting Mauled by the Tigers," there's 100% they're going to adopt another cringing chant.
Do you think? Oh, hang on. You can't just drop that in there that you think Mauled by the Tigers is cringy. I think it's the greatest chant in football because it just winds people up so much.
It's definitely the biggest piss boiler, isn't it, for supporters? It gets the opposition fans aggy, but it is, just make you go, that's a bit cringy as a neutral.
And finally, another team who came from behind this weekend was Watford. They beat Blackburn 2-1, otherwise known as Justin Peach's outsider. Just in case you were wondering how the picks went this weekend, I extended my lead by another 2 points. You are having an absolute stinker, aren't you, my son?
Yeah, you sent me that message, didn't you? I think it was either yesterday or the day before, where the Blackburn's half the squad's injured. Which came out before we picked the bankers and outsiders. It's fine margins that I'm on the other end of at the moment, and these things balance out over the course of a season, as the football cliche goes. I'm expecting to come back. Blackburn were 1-0 up until very late in the game. Furious.
You think it's going to even out over the season? I don't think it is. Now it's time for this.
Hi, Simon Grayson here.
Yes, it's time for Simon Grayson's Hateful Eight. So Justin's going to ask me to name 8 of a certain subject. All I've got to do is name all 8. So, for example, if he would say, name Steve Bruce's last 8 clubs, and I would say Villa, that's 1 down, Newcastle, another down. But if I would say Weymouth, I would lose a life. So all I need to do is give all 8 answers without losing all my lives. And you can get involved in the fun by sending in your Hateful Eights for either Justin and I to answer. Send them into secondtierpod@gmail.com, and you could get a shout out the next time we do a Hateful Eight. Alternatively, just play along at home. Let us know how many you get. Who's this Hateful Eight from, Justin?
It's from Luke in Sunderland, and it's a Sunderland-themed Hateful Eight. Sunderland have had 8 permanent managers and head coaches, so I'll add that one in, since they were relegated from the Premier League in 2017. So I want you to name all 8. Simon Grayson is going to give you 2 lives for this, because there are some sticky names that you might not remember.
That's an obvious one. Simon Grayson.
Yes, you can. Yes, Simon Grayson is the obvious one. There is also another obvious one.
Oh, okay, fine. So there's 8 since they got relegated from the Premier League. Is there? Fine. So I'll go Chris Coleman.
Yes, he's not a prick, Chris Coleman.
Yeah, he's got kids. I need to rewatch that sometime. That was TV gold, that was. Honestly, what a teaser.
2 down.
Who took over from Chris Coleman? I'll come back to that. I'll go from most recent, and I'll go Mick Beale.
Yes, Mick Beale. I somehow thought you might forget Mick Beale because it's so obvious. But yeah, you're 3 down. You've got 5 left to go.
In 10 years' time, I might forget Mick Beale. Tony Mowbray.
Tony Mowbray is the other obvious one because he was sacked a couple of weeks ago.
You're right. Alex Neil.
Correct. 6 months spell in charge while they're in League One before leaving for the promised land of Stoke. Didn't go well.
No, it didn't. How many have I got left? 3.
You've got 3 left, and I thought you might hesitate with these.
This is the tricky one because this is when they were in League One once, and I wasn't paying as much attention to them down there. Lee Johnson, I recall having
Streaky Lee is correct.
2 left, 2 lives remaining.
2 left.
Right. There is someone who I remember, although he's very obscure, and I may have got his name wrong. Is it Jack Ross?
You are correct. It is Jack Ross. I'm now starting to think that maybe 2 lives was a little bit too generous for me.
No,
but
I'm not sure it is.
Fair enough. Spot on.
This last person, I'm struggling.
No surprises there because it was a rather forgetful spell.
Yeah.
Fun fact about Jack Ross while you're thinking, he's now the head of coaching development at Newcastle.
Is he?
Yeah.
He was a very highly rated coach when he went to Sunderland.
He did, and they weren't the best, if we're going to be honest, either.
No, they had a bit of a stinker, didn't they? I'm
Come on,
seriously
one more
struggling
guess.
with this other one.
One more guess. You've got 2 lives, Ryan. You could say anybody.
Phil Brown.
Incorrect.
Why are you pulling that face? Because
You're
it wasn't
on the right
close.
lines. You're on the right lines with Phil Brown. I don't know how, but the lines they're quite linear.
I was just
With,
throwing Phil
with Phil
Brown
Brown.
out there because I was hoping it would delay and give myself more time, but
He's got one guess left. Come on,
no, I think I'm going to have to tap out because
just throw a name. Just throw any name.
it's so annoying because I feel like it's on the tip of my tongue, but I just cannot remember it.
Yeah, any
Paolo
name.
Di Canio.
You're incorrect. It's not Paolo Di Canio. The name you're looking for is Disney Plus star Phil Parkinson.
I wouldn't have got that, to be honest.
Really?
No, that was a really forgetful
Yeah,
stuff.
I thought you were on the right lines for Phil Brown because they've got a Bolton past, and they're both called Phil.
I was trying to think of pretty unremarkable former Championship managers.
You're on the right lines.
Did he manage in the Championship?
He did. He managed Colchester, Reading. Not yeah. I think it was Reading and Bolton.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't think I would have got that. I think we could have been here for a good hour, and I'm not sure I would have got that. But there you go, ladies and gentlemen. I've fallen foul to Simon Grayson's Hateful Eight, and this has been the Second Tier Podcast. We'll be back again the day after Boxing Day to give you a roundup of all the Boxing Day fixtures in the Championship. So we bloody look forward to seeing you then. Listen, have a very, very, very Merry Christmas if you're listening to this before Christmas or on Christmas Day. We appreciate you, whatever it is you're doing over this festive period, and we look forward to seeing you again very, very soon. This has been the Second Tier Podcast. I've been Ryan Dilks.
I've been Justin Peach.
And a big thank you for listening.